Hi, guys. Hey, everyone. How are you? Look, I found my crystal ball. Did you see that? I have it. I found my crystal ball. Hey, I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. Okay, so I was wanting to do something a little bit different, and I was like, what can I do differently here? What can we do for a topic? I get sort of bored with some of the same stuff, and I was like, it's been a minute since I've really been in this world of parents that think the rules don't apply. And if you are not familiar, I found my crystal ball. If you're not familiar with this, what I used to do is I used to work writing on patios. And when I was writing on patios, I used to cover stories of these parents that believed they were like sovereign citizens, and they would do things like decide that the state took their kids for no reason. And then they would concoct these plans on how they needed to take the kids because they had been stripped for no reason. And there's always a reason. There's literally always a reason that the kids had been removed. Like, there was a story that I covered that was in New York where this little boy, this young boy had a form of, I think, leukemia, and his mom was like refusing to give him treatment because she like didn't believe in it. There was another little boy in Florida. It was the same thing. And it was like all of the parents believed that, they knew better than everyone else. They did not believe in the system. And because of that, they had put their children in a position that was not healthy, right? Well, then a couple weeks ago, we get sort of bamboozled by Michael Long and the Save the Children movement. Now, I realize a lot of you guys don't understand that QAnon is fake and it's this massive conspiracy that wreaks tons of havoc. And I'm sorry if you don't understand that. I would really encourage you to educate yourselves on how harmful this group can be and how they distract and create chaos. And not only that, how these types of groups are helping people that don't and should not have access to kids get access, because people like Michael Long or the mom in this case are using these kinds of groups to get what they want. And the reason I'm doing this story is because Emily, the mother in this case, lost custody of her son for the exact same reason that Michael Long is kind of in the same position that he's in right now. So Michael Long is of the Sophie story, basically making false allegations against his ex-wife. Emily did the same thing. So Emily Jolley, she is, let me just pull this up. She took her son. Now, thankfully, the little boy's back, but this is her. She believes that she's a spirit. She's Emily's spirit. She thinks she's psychic. Okay. And so she's very into these like psychic things. And she joined a group where she believes that she's not a citizen of the United States. And she, on her wall, there's lots of stuff related to conspiracies and things just that aren't real, not rooted in reality. She actually had lost custody of her son several years ago, I believe, because she had falsely accused her ex of doing things to his son that never happened. So does that sound familiar? So my specific concern when I saw this was like, this reminds me of what we're seeing right now with the Sophie Long, Michael Long case, because this also got sort of big, and she has a group behind her, not to the extent that Michael does, but it's the same sort of save the children. We're sovereign. We don't have to apply. It doesn't matter. And she went sort of like underground and she took off with her son. So Terran Butler, the little boy, he has lived with his dad for years. His dad is now, I think, remarried, and they are like raising him. And the mom has had limited contact with him, supervised visitations, and she is described as completely unstable and unhealthy and manipulative. So he loses custody, or she loses custody of him. Dad has his son going to a supervised visit that's supposed to be facilitated by grandma, and the kids and then she just literally takes off with her kids, with her son that she has no court ordered custody of at all. And this happened on Saturday. So I want to show you guys like a little bit. They did a stream. I don't even know. This is in a Facebook group, but they talked about, that's her sister is in the bottom. That's Erica Warner. And then Tim and Amelia are at the top. Tim is the father. And he kind of talks about, his relationship with Emily.
I wanted to make sure that cute little boy with his birthmark.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that, I've never advocated to have full custody of Terran. I always wanted to co-parent with the mother, and I tried everything I could to keep a civil relationship. This last time around, I honestly had nothing to do with the custody battle that raised alarm because of some of the things that were going on. And Terran actually spoke to his school teachers. And I just want to thank God for the DCFS workers who were brave enough to take that case and just put up a boundary around that. And they were able to bring that to light. And Emily had the opportunity to be in his life, and the court system did everything they possibly could to give her that opportunity, but she would not participate in any meaningful way. By that time, she was already down by that time, she had already decided that she was part of this other group that was not part of the United States. So that was her thinking at that time, and that Terran knows that he's safe here. He loves his life here, and he's involved in.
So basically, the dad says that the mom shows up on Saturday and she like brings like a sheet of paper, which basically says that like he's not a citizen of the United States anymore, and he has him sign it. And then like after that, she takes off with him, and there's like a moving truck, and they're with like a friend who's like a co-conspirator who is part of this like group, and they're part of this like sovereign community. But the problem is that these groups are they're actually designated as a domestic group that doesn't do very good things because they don't believe that the law applies to them. So if you guys noticed, when all of the stuff kicked off with the Sophie story, there was so many threats. There was so much happening. People were like out to harm. And it's like, this is why they don't believe that they're part of this government. They don't believe they have to abide by the law. They don't believe that they are citizens. They believe they are their own entities. And because of that, they can do whatever they want, whenever they want, with whoever they want. They are sort of the don't tread on me people. And it's scary. And especially in this specific world, this mother apparently did a lot of what Michael Long did, in that she tried to manipulate what she did with the Child Protective Services in order to get them to get full custody of her son. And then when that didn't work, she decided that she was going to use the sovereign group and become a sovereign citizen to manipulate them in order to get custody of her son. It's kind of scary, and it's like kind of an indication of what life is like in the brain of someone like Michael Long. And her sister actually talked about her, which I thought was interesting. Let me just pull it up.
When it became readily apparent to me that not only her instability had gotten worse, but she had also gotten more violent in the way that she handles her relationships. If you don't agree with her, you are her utter enemy.
Does that sound familiar? If you don't agree with her, you're her utter enemy. That reminds me so much of Michael Long. It's like these groups seem to attract the same type of people. This also reminds me of a case in Florida where this little boy, Noah, was taken by his sovereign parents because they didn't want to treat his leukemia. And it was the same thing. The father has severe mental instability and believes that the rules don't apply. And he gets angry if anyone like tries to go at him.
And the challenges that I see is that she is taking the statistics of a system that is meant to protect children and using it in her favor to further her personal sick agenda to control this child. And this is not fair to Terran.
Did you hear that? A sick agenda to control a child by using the system in her favor. It's like the same pattern with every single one of these parents that does this. It's like they find whatever means that they can. They develop this. And this, the problem is that they join these groups and they wrongly believe that CPS is kidnapping children. And you guys might think that that's true, but it's not. And unfortunately, what happens is it puts these kids into such scary positions where the parents have no interest in their best interest, like in the best interest of the child. It's like a self-fulfilling satisfaction for them to get what they want, regardless of whether or not that it's good for the kid.
Terran needs to be home with this caring, loving family where the court system has rightfully ordered that he be. So going against the judge's orders after 6 years of custody battle, there is no reason for people to feel like the truth that she is posing is actually holding water. When they get to know her, they think that they understand the problem, but they are misinformed based on being played off of their genuine empathy to try to protect this child.
Did you hear that? That part when she said that, I was like, this is so what Michael Long did. He played off your and my empathy to want to protect a child by alleging that all of these things happened, regardless if it was rooted in truth or fantasy. And because of that manipulation, they make you believe that you need to do something for this kid, and it's not true. And it's like the same MO for all of these parents.
Right. And I think what you bring up, Erica, is so important because I think our natural response is, of course, a mother doesn't, like I said already, doesn't want to hurt their child. But as you've just shared, you have very personal firsthand experience of how this has not just started out in one issue of mental health issues and abuse on an emotional level, but has escalated. And her association now with organizations that will help her, that will support her, that can become violent. And like you said, certain diagnoses out there, if a person doesn't get what they want, right, then they go on the attack of anyone that's calling them on things and holding them.
So I'm guessing in this situation, they might be talking about like a form of narcissism, because in some forms of narcissism, if they don't get what they want, they'll attack. And then there's also other borderline personality disorder, other antisocial personality disorders, along with various mental health issues that can cause that. But it's interesting because in the case of Michael Long, he's described by people that are close to him as a narcissist. And in this case, it sounds very similar. And it's like these people that have these grandiose ideas and believe that the world doesn't apply to them, then they use the internet to somehow convince everyone that their children are at risk and you have to help them. And then the internet buys into it, and it's really scary. And I think if you don't understand the harm that these QAnon groups do, it's this right here. People are believing the mother who is a danger to her child to be the better parent when there's no factual basis for that at all. It's just going off the emotion. And there is, okay, if it's not, I'm sorry, it's not if it's not borderline, I apologize. Okay. First of all, we're not here to this has nothing to do with Antifa. This is about children. But the QAnon stuff, this is dangerous because you've got people that are making you believe false realities that aren't there. And they make you think that there's an urgency to get them, and you have to go get them now under any means necessary. And it's scary.
Boundaries. And so for you to come forward at this point, why did you decide this was the time?
It's been about 3 years since she and I have had any contact. And when I saw that she had taken him, it shocked me, but not surprised me. 3 years ago, she actually had given me a scenario of, hey, I'm going to try to take Terran away. So she was telling me she wanted to abduct him. She was telling me kind of how she wanted to do it. But she didn't go into any details for me to be able to further finding him at the moment.
And this is like the other thing that I thought the parallel was interesting here is because this mom has been planning this for years, she says, like up to 3 years. And she joins the Sovereign group in order to do it. And the biggest fear, according to Kelly Long, is that Michael is not going to comply with orders and he will take off. And he has actually at times threatened to go to, a country that doesn't have extradition so that she can have no access to the children. And when a parent is brainwashing and poisoning a child with ideas that aren't helpful, it is considered a form of extreme child. It's DV by proxy is what a lot of my subscribers have been talking about. Basically using the child as a weapon against the ex. And it's to hurt them. But it's scary. There's like no regard for the safety of the kids.
So what she did share with me was that she wanted to take him. She wanted to find a way to be able to get above the law, or at least in her mind, how she can circumvent the law. And that's when she sought out that sovereignty group or whatever. And the only thing that I know is that there are lots of people out there that will try to find a group that will hear their story
And validate their,
right. But the hard part is evidence and witnesses and everything supports that Emily should not have custody of Terran. And that's exactly the case that we're in at the moment.
So that was another part that that was the other part that I was thinking was interesting here is like everyone needs to find a group where they feel like they're heard, and they'll use these conspiracy groups then to get what they want. We're not discussing politics here. What we're talking about are conspiracy groups that are not beneficial for children. It is not beneficial for a child to be abducted from their place of home by a parent that is not stable. It is not productive for that then parent to use the internet to get other people that are in this group riled up to harm people, thinking that the other parent, in this case, Tim or Kelly, are the ones that are hurting the kids when it's in truth, Emily or Michael. And it's these conspiracy groups and these Facebook groups that really promote this. I mean, at one point, let me see if I can get to where the stepmom talks about him.
Relationship with his mother, as it was appropriate, but that just wasn't possible after this event. So,
Amelia, do you want to speak with me more about how much you love this little boy? I've been in your home, and you both have such gentle hearts, and you're going on very little sleep and a lot of trauma and a lot of anxiety. You both are doing so well, and I loved, Tim, what you said is that you have in your heart, you have tried knowing that children need their parents, right? You're not a vindictive father who's trying to video can feel that factor. Amelia, I didn't mean to cut you off.
His mother's mental health and stability, but more than that, I worry about this sovereign society that's inducted her into it and what they are capable of. And just in the last couple of days since he's gone missing, I've had a chance to delve in a little bit into things they've done, and they've got groups that help mothers that have lost custody, like basically kidnap their children back. And so they've got a history of this. And so she's found this group that fit right in her agenda.
Right.
You know, she originally started as using Child Protective Services to for her ally to get full custody of a child. And when that backfired on her because she was caught in her lies, she then turned against them and is with these groups that are saying that Child Protective Services is kidnapping children from their rightful mothers. And there's obviously, you know, a Facebook group for everything, but just found out she's in 7 different Facebook groups of people that are accusing Child Protective Services of kidnapping children for horrible reasons.
So this organization.
So the conspiracy that they're talking about is these people literally believe that there is a some sort of overarching, you know, issue with CPS, and they are trafficking children. And in order to do that, they're taking kids from other families and then like selling them to traffickers. There's no basis in reality. There's no factual evidence that this has happened. And they get people believing it as though it's truth. And then these people join these groups and then they go off and then they kidnap their kids back. And they say that their child has been falsely kidnapped by CPS. Now, admittedly, there are times when CPS takes children and there might be no basis or it was an error, but more often than not, it's not an error. There's actually things that are happening in that child's home that are not in their best interests. But these parents are using these groups and it's so scary. Yeah, Rebecca says, if CPS rarely outright removes children from a biological parent, and you have to be doing something completely horrid to lose custody. And it's true. Like, it's absolutely true. You have to be doing something pretty bad. Like, I know plenty of people that have gone through this system, and usually they're all about reunification and helping families reunify. And like, because it's not in the child's best interest ever to like take them away from their biological child if there's a possibility that they can use the teaching methods and the skills in order to help the parent be a better parent. So this is the same theories that Lori and Chad Daybell believed. Yeah. And it's like, these are the same types of, they're permeating through this Save the Children movements that are happening on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And it's really like, I want people to understand that like, you can want to save children, but the way that children are being like trafficked is not how these groups are making you feel. And CPS is not just like walking into this woman's house and being like, you can't have this kid. It's, so I wanted just to show you that, that was kind of what I wanted to show you there. But so this is the mom, and this is her Facebook page. So you can see that she's just sort of like into all of these different conspiracies. It's just, it's wild. But in this group, this is his Bring Terran Home. They finally found him. So he was actually found in Oregon. So they were found earlier today by the Unified Police in Greater Salt Lake. They said, we're happy to announce that Terran Butler has been safely located in Coos, Oregon. Emily has been taken into custody, and this is still an active investigation, so we're unable to release additional details, but wanted to inform the public, who have been extremely helpful. And she was being helped by this woman who they were driving in some sort of like Honda Civic. And this was her sympathizer, like her friend Bonnie, who was a sympathizer of hers, helped abduct this child away from the only stability that this child ever had, took off with them, changed cars, went to Oregon, and were finally located in Oregon. Thankfully, the Amber Alert worked in this case. But this poor child had been gone for days. And he doesn't have a relationship with his mother that like warrants, like, imagine a child that doesn't live with one of the parents and then they suddenly are like, the mom just shows up and takes off. You know what I mean? Like, It doesn't make sense. I wonder if Janelle Evans had seen that CPS conspiracy, and that's why she posted the Save the Children photo. It is exactly why, Savannah, and it's why she made this stupid, docu-series where she said that CPS illegally took her children. Everyone with a brain that functions can know that what happened at the Evans-Eason household last year warranted an investigation. There was enough reason to believe that those kids were not safe. But she has bought into this crazy conspiracy that she believes that CPS takes kids. And that's a product of David. David also is another person that I believe is a sovereign citizen. Like, while he might be a Trump supporter, I truly believe that David Eason sort of falls in that same category because he doesn't believe that the rules apply to him. How long have I been a horrible person? Since I was born. Thank you, Marcus Neiman. I am a wonderful person. They were found in Coos Bay, which is a small beach town, says Stacy. So now the child has been found and the parents are going to be reuniting with him, thankfully, to get him. But this whole story has just been wild. Like, the grandmother wouldn't cooperate. She was a part of all of this when the kid was kidnapped. She would not speak to them and tell them what happened. It was with her supervision that she allowed this to happen. So it's just so sad to me that these conspiracies. Janelle chose her husband over her children. Horrible mother. Janelle is busy still trying to take this channel down. You guys, Janelle Evans still seems to believe that the rules don't apply to her. And that's why I don't think we should be even remotely surprised that she has gotten sucked into all of this stuff either. Did someone really just pay money to an insult in the said channel? Yes. Hey, money's money, I guess. Insults are insults. I'm not worried about the insults. Like, what that person thinks about me at the end of the day doesn't really bother me. But thank you for the super chat, Marcus Neiman, Marcus Neiman. And thank you, Don Guthler, for your super chat as well. So when I saw all of this sort of happening, I was like, this so reminds me of Michael Long. And I feel like, this educated mindset needs to come into play. Like, we should not be immediately seeing like a missing child or my child was kidnapped and immediately like believe it, especially if it comes with, CPS involvement. You always have to trust in a way that the courts have done what they needed to do. And like that sister was saying, is that this mother has basically defied what all the people in the system that knew this child, the teachers, the workers, like she lost custody because of things that the little boy was telling his teachers at school that his mom was telling him and doing to him. So, you can't, not everyone is in the conspiracy here. Like, most of these players literally just want the best thing for the kid. Do they make mistakes? Yes. Have mistakes been made with the Sophie and that case? Yes. They're in court tomorrow. The case is now sealed. But at the end of the day, like, it is a broken system, but we can't say that it doesn't work or that it's completely doesn't fit. Because for some kids, it does work. And for some families, it does work. And for some parents, they shouldn't have their parental rights. There are parents that should not have children that are doing things that are really bad. All of these conspiracy advocates don't want to follow society rules. They want to control of their own little bubble world. Yes. And they're impossible to argue with and they're impossible to reason with. They're the same people that believe that because I say, I don't believe the father, that I'm somehow like saying that the kid is a liar. It's not even remotely true. They don't want to see the factual evidence that, parents do what's called parental alienation. And it's not okay. There's always going to be flaws and errors made, but the system is not broken. Yeah, I was going to say, like, I really don't feel like it's broken. I feel like there are mistakes that are made. Like, there are things that can happen, but in general, I feel like everyone's doing their best. Unless it comes from a police or an actual missing person's webpage, I never share things like that to Facebook because I heard stories of non-custodial parents looking for kids in hiding. Correct. So what I was thinking a lot about with this Michael Long thing was that basically his case was falling apart. So he was on the verge of he had a no contact order. The amicus attorney had come in and basically said, we don't want him to have contact with this child. And then he utilized Facebook and all of these GoFundMes and all of these Twitters and Instagrams to try to convince people of something that did not happen, that people had already discounted, that had already been investigated. And now it put an entire wrench into like what happens. So no social worker likes taking any kids. It's heart-wrenching. In 2020, every day felt like a crisis. At this point, we're all collectively in trauma, fight, or flight mode. And I do feel like that's part of what's happened, Stacey. I really do. I feel like everyone just feels so overwhelmed with life right now that we are aggravated and we're agitated and we're missing like human connection and we're not spending enough time with other people and we're at home. It's just this pandemic has made our mental health worse and made us agitated and more fighty for sure. So when I was thinking about this story, I was like, this is just a good place to sort of start off because I feel like there's so much misinformation that has happened with this Sophie Michael Long story, but it's a symptom of a way bigger problem that's happening online. And it's something that people just need to be way more mindful of. Like, don't just read something or hear something and assume that this is true. You just can't. We just read every headline and we are ready to jump. As a therapist, I worry about what will happen collectively. I do too. Why do I threaten critics with lawsuits? Well, that's not true. That's only happened a few times and that's not true. But I appreciate your super chat. There are so many videos you can watch about me that I've never even talked about, and I never will. But I appreciate all of you guys that don't enjoy watching me, that are hate watching me. Hey, it's still a view. I appreciate your money. It's still money. So your $2.99 is still $2.99 to me. Whether you like me or hate me, I'm just glad you're here listening. I don't think this started in 2020. It started with algorithms and YouTube, Facebook, et cetera, that feed people this in the participation of platforms. Maybe. I feel like some platforms have gotten better at it. But here's another example. Chrissy Teigen. Okay. Did you guys see the news today? Chrissy Teigen, she had a horrible, she had a miscarriage. She had she was like bleeding, I think, internally, and then she was losing fluid and she had tons of blood transfusions. And unfortunately, they just could not keep the baby in a safe place. And she ends up losing the baby. And QAnon is actually now turning this into her karma, and they are being so terrible to her. And yet there's nothing to indicate that she's ever done anything to children except for some tasteless tweets from when she was watching Dance Moms. But this is what this group does. Chrissy doesn't deserve that hate. I am not a fan of hers, but I would never, and it has nothing to do with that. I just find sometimes she can be sort of not the kindest, right? But that doesn't mean that what she went through today and this past week is terrible. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And you shouldn't have you shouldn't use someone's tragedy like that to then be pushing a QAnon conspiracy on her. That's completely false. Placental abruption. Okay. That's what I thought. I'm so disappointed at how easily people are to manipulate, especially with the panic buying that happened this year. For sure, Emerald. Yes, Katie, you got it. This is all the extension of Pizzagate since 2016. And you guys, can we just say Pizzagate isn't real? It's already been debunked. These poor owners of this shop in wherever it is, somewhere on the East Coast, are still dealing with this. There was nothing happening there. There's been terrible things that have happened to the owners and this establishment. There's no truth in it. Just like it's already been debunked. It shouldn't even be a thing, but like it just keeps on coming back. I know she's been like she's like been trending. That story's been trending on Twitter all day. They certainly don't care. And I see some of you guys trying to defend this on Twitter that comment. They love to comment underneath me. And then there's some people that just want to comment and be trolls and not agree with anything that I say, no matter what it is. I could like kittens and they will say that I hate dogs. I am a liar. Well, I appreciate you watching, Jody Blonde. You are still watching. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Definitely was like, what I'm most happy about is that they found this child. I'm hoping this means that there would be like some sort of like, I'll be interested to see what kind of charges they bring against this mother. I hope this means that she never has access to this child again, because this is not okay. That's funny because it's so true. I should just say out loud, like, thank you to all of the channels that make videos about me. You guys are fantastic, because every time you make a video about me, it just brings more people to my channel. You might think it's hurting me, but it's not. It's actually helping this channel grow. And even though you think you have an opinion about me, a lot of times people end up coming here and it doesn't match the opinion that you have. So if you want me to actually go away, sometimes the best thing that you can do is to not give me attention. But the more attention you give me, it just helps this channel grow. Because in the business that we're in, any publicity is good publicity, which I realize if we're going to talk, Anna Tavares says, that's how I got here. You know, if you want someone to go away, the best thing to do is not talk about that. And I'm keenly aware that if there are people that I don't particularly like that I continue to talk about, I'm keeping them relevant by speaking about them. I understand that. So in the same breath, you know, if you don't want me to be relevant, just ignore me. Who am I suing next? No one. Marcus, thanks again for that super chat. That was an amazing super chat. I hope you're enjoying spending this money on me. This is awesome. We've made $10 or $11 on troll chats today. They're buying me coffee. Troll chats. Yay, troll chats. Thanks for troll super chats. Maybe it is, Matt. Who knows? Who cares? But I just don't get upset with it anymore. So, you know, if you see those videos, this is just another thing. Like, if you see those videos about me, you don't feel like you have to tell me about them, because I literally don't watch them. I don't look at them. I don't even care about them. So like, it literally doesn't matter to me what another person on YouTube says about me at all, because there's nothing that they're going to be able to uncover about me that's going to be remotely, like, anything they're saying is going to be their opinion. I never knew. Troll super chats. Yay! Yes. Maybe you should do a video, super chat only, and see how many trolls will pay you to speak. Some will actually pay to be members, which is wild. Seriously, good or bad talk, it's all a benefit. So my attorney has always said to me, you know, Katie, in this business, whether it's good or bad, negative or positive, publicity is publicity. So you should just thank those people for saying those things and carry on with your day. And that's sort of the steps that we take, unless things get to a level that aren't safe, and then we might intervene. But for the most part, we just ignore things. You don't watch them. Hey, you can watch them if you want to. If people have an opinion, they're entitled to have an opinion, just the way I have an opinion. All right, so this was my thing about this little boy. I'm going to keep updated to see like what happens with I will keep you updated to see what happens with the story. And if you guys have any other things that you would like me to cover, make sure that you check in with me. You can send me emails. You can send me messages on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram if there's something that you want me to cover. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a really, really good. What is the white sign behind you? Oh, it's my play button. It's my YouTube play button. It's for 100,000 subscribers. All right, you guys, have a good night.